I got a question earlier today by Ninja Lay asking me about using routing in the composition API because apparently they couldn't get it to work. And I realized I've never actually tried this before, so I'm just going to have a crack at it, see if I can get it working. It'll be a good opportunity for me to try it, and then hopefully, yeah, I can help Ninja Lay, which is a pretty cool name. Ninja Lay. Wow. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new project. Let's call this Quasar create, and we'll say composition API routing. That seems appropriate. And then let's set the branch equal to next. Hopefully by the time a lot of you are watching this, you won't have to add this branch next flag since we're almost on the next branch anyway. I'm just going to leave all of this as the default. Doesn't really matter, except, oh, it looks like I think you've got routing by default anyway. I might include these. I always like to, just in case I feel like I need to reach out for them, halfway through the video. Use yarn, go ahead and get that installing. And then in the meantime, let's open up the docs. And then we'll open it up for Quasar version 2, because this is definitely a V2 specific thing. And I think it's view composables. Use Quasar. No, it's not that. All right, so let's have a look at, oh, here we go. We've got some new updates here. We want to look at routing because that's probably going to mention something about the composition API in here. How to use view router in Quasar app. All right, and while that's going, let's just jump into here. Oh, I thought it would be done by now. Here we go. Composition API dash routing. Open that in code, and we should be safe to jump out of here now. Right, let's have a little look. So that's just talking about routing normally. Where are we in the docs here? Oh, didn't grab. I'm pretty sure you have to say like use router or something like that though. Routing. So that's with Quasar CLI. So how about we look up something like router here. And I want to use it in view components. You can use Q items together with view. No, that's not what I'm looking for. All right, so routing layouts and pages. I'm not actually seeing anything here related to routing in the composition API. Is there a section where they talk about routing in the docs? Because we could probably use how to use a view router. No, I think that's what I was just on there now. And it looks like the view router isn't actually being used the way we want it to be used. I don't know. The other thing is you might actually be able to pull the router out of Quasar. In fact, let's look into that. We've got this use app. I think it's under composables. So we've got use Quasar. Maybe it's got something to do with something in here. I don't know. All right, so what I might do, in fact, actually, honestly, we might have to look at the view router doc. So let's just go to view router. View router. And I'm not sure if this is the view 3 one though. Sure, let's refresh that. I want to make sure that I'm looking at view. Okay, it might be 4.x, I think. The official router for view. They don't make it very clear, do they? But I'm pretty sure that we're using view router 3 under the hood, and we can probably check that by saying Quasar info. Get rid of the sidebar there because we don't need it. And it should tell me here what version of view router we're using. All right, maybe they don't. Quasar extra view. It tells me view. Oh, here we go. 4.0.8. All right, so that's helpful. We want to look for something in relation to the composition API, and here it is here. All right, now we're getting somewhere. So we want to import use router and use route. And let's just have a crack at that and see what we get. So we'll jump into index.view. Let's say Quasar dev to get our environment up and running. And then we'll come in here and we'll say setup and basically do what they're doing here. So they're importing it here like this. We might even whack that over on the side there, whack that over there. And now we can come in here and add those imports. I really should be typing this myself so I get used to wrapping my fingers around it. So let's say import we're taking out use router. That's the common theme. It's always use and then whatever it is when it's composables. I think that's what they call these, composables. Yeah. Anyway, use router and use route. So the router would be for like taking you to different locations, and this would be about the current route. And we want to get that from view-router. And then what are they doing here? We're basically saying const router is equal to use router. So that makes perfect sense. And then, of course, the route is going to be pretty much the equivalent, but for route. Now, let's come down here and say, hang on, why would that be working? They're not even exposing that function. So what a function here, push with, because I'm pretty sure you would then need to say like return, and then return that function. I don't know, maybe that's a mistake in the docs. So I might just, in this case, return both of those, and we might also do a log on them. But let's just see how they're being used first. Routed.put, it's being used exactly the same way as it usually is being used. So how about we have a link here? We might actually just make another page. How about this? We'll say Quasar, new page, and we'll just call it routed to page. We'll jump into that. You got here, save that, and let's jump into our routes to make sure that we actually take them to that route. So I'm just going to paste that down. What did I call it? Routed to page. I'll just copy this here. And there we go. And then if I go to slash my dash route. I know this is kind of a silly example. But now if I go to my dash route, it should take me there. So let's say slash my dash route, and it works. You got here. So that's the result we're looking for. Let's go back to our index.view and then have a link. So what's the best way to do that? Q-button, I guess. And then we'll have a 2, which takes us to, and now we should be able to use the router and say router.push, and then I guess the name of the route. What's going on here? Why am I not getting linting? What's going on there? Unexpected token. Can anyone see what I've done here? Am I going crazy? Anyway, let's go into the linter and get some of my linting working for me. All right, let's try running that again. We'll get a weird compilation error. Find out what that's about in a second. But yeah, I basically want to say take me to, and then we'll just say path for now because it's easier to do. And what was that path? My dash route. My dash route. Save that. And we get that linting warning. This always happens on the error page. I just jump in there and save it. It formats it for me, and then everything works. It worked. And there we go. So that's all I had to do. I'm not sure there's anything else to talk about in this video. I mean, I guess we can kind of like play around with things a little bit now. So how about this? We've got our route, our current route. So maybe we can like print out the route here. Let's see what we get there. Didn't like that, did it? Oh, no, it liked it. That's working fine. We get our path, we get our param. So we say, for example, I think it's like question mark param equals yes, for example. Is that how you do it? Question mark? I think some weird errors in here. What are these errors? Might just refresh it in case the error came from somewhere else. Oh, there we go. All right, so it just doesn't like the way I'm printing this out, I think. So let's say route dot, I don't know, params. Or have we got like the query? Yeah, let's say route dot query. And it looks like just from what I saw, that's working anyway. So now let's refresh the page. And there we go. We can see the parameters there. We can press this button and it takes us to a route. So that's it. That's using routes with the composition API. I don't think there's really anything else to cover. So luckily that was far easier than I thought it would be. So basically we take the, oh, Ninja Lay. how do we implement programmatic route in function rather than in template in a function? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but if that by that you mean something like function, how about we say take me to, I don't know, the promised land. This is such a joke. I'm sorry. Take me to the promised land. And then let's make that a function. In fact, let's just use an arrow function that basically says router dot push. And then what was the name of that route that I went to? Here it is, my route. And the path is equal to slash my dash route. I'm pretty sure I can just call that function now and it's going to work. So we'll have to expose it, of course, and maybe we can just get rid of those two. And in this case, we're using the router. We don't need to know the current route, so I'm going to get rid of that. And now when I click on this, we can say, take me to the promised land. And hopefully, in an ideal world, we're not using that anymore, this will just work. Okay, programmatic route in function. Oh, I think what you might mean is when you're not in a component. Is that what you mean, Ninja? Maybe try and give me a little bit more information about the example, and I'll have a crack at it. To expected a string, got an object. What am I doing here? Oh, this should be an at click instead. So let's say at click, take me to the promised land. Let's see if that works. Yep, that works as well. So that's how we can just like sit it inside of a function. Now, by the way, since we're using the composition API, this is going to be a contrived example. Yeah, just like what you do right now. Yeah, cool. But since we're using the composition API, there's another way we could go about this. And like I said, this is going to be a contrived example, but I just want to show you the power of extraction that we get in the composition API. So if I jump into, I'm going to do it in the pages directory just for simplicity's sake. And how about we say routing or something like that, .js. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to export that functionality, that routing functionality, into this file here. And I'm pretty sure this is going to work. And this is one of the huge, huge benefits of the composition API. Now I can grab that and I can import it up here instead. I can also come down here and take all of this, and I can throw it in here instead. This is meant to be a function. Like, yeah. And then I can return here. We won't return router. We'll just return take me to the promised land. So check this out. Hello, hello, Emmanuel. Good to see you around. And now we've got routing.js. Once again, this is kind of a silly example, but I just want to show you guys the power of the composition API. Now I can say import routing from routing.js, right? So basically I'm using this file now, and we can then say ... routing. Okay, so let me show you what's happening now. First, let's check if it works. And it does not. It doesn't work, it does not. Oh, hi, Mark. It's not defined on the instance. Routing. Take me to the promised land. So that's, okay, that's a function. So I'll have to do it like that. In fact, we might not even need to do that as a function. Oh, we probably will have to. There might be a way around it, but anyway, let's leave it like that for now. But I'll refresh the page, see if that works, and it does. So what's cool about this? What's cool about this is the fact that I now took all of that functionality, all of that routing functionality, and I moved it into its own file. So this means, for example, maybe you have, I don't know, a to-do app, and you want routing that's related to to-do stuff. Then rather than having all of that to-do related routing within your component, you can now extract it to its own JavaScript file. And you could have, for example, let's just call this like use to do. Maybe not use to do. I could probably come up with a better name for it than that. But anyway, you get the point. You could you come up with a name for this, like this is all of my to-do related logic. And then you come over here. Let's say use to do. Once again, that's poorly named. And then basically now we can put all of our to-do related logic inside of this file here. So now, rather than having it all in here, it's sitting in that file. And now I can control click this and it takes me straight to the file. It's amazing. This is like one of the huge benefits of the composition API. Or maybe you just want to pluck one specific thing out of there. Well, in that case, you could do something like this. Let's just pluck out of there. Take me to the promised land. And then we can do this. I think that's right. What did I do wrong? Getting squigglies. I feel like it should be sound. I installed View Router and done what you did, but compiler shows me error messages. Need to review this video from scratch. Are you using View 3? So did you make sure you added the next flag when you started a new View project? And sorry, there is a little bit of a delay here, so sorry if you've already answered that question. But you do need to make sure, this might be obvious to you, I'm not sure, but you need to say Quasar create, and then my-app, and then say branch is equal to next. If you're not using the next branch, you're actually using View 2, and that's not going to work. You might know that already, but a lot of other people might not know that. So you need to make sure you're using the next flag for that one. Now, why is this not working? Did I spell it wrong? Maybe I spelled it wrong. Take me to the promised land. Blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't spell it wrong. Not found in use-to-do.js. Oh, okay, because that's a function. All right, I see what I did there now. So let's see if we can turn this into an object instead. I don't really know what that would look like. Actually, why not this? There's no reason that needs to sit inside there, so we can take that out. We can turn this into a function that just sits directly in there like, nyah. And that's it. Yeah. That's it. So let's try refreshing that. And it works. And there we go. So now we can just directly export a function there. Use router can be sitting outside of there, and then we can just use it directly here. We might even be able to do something like this. Use router.push to simplify that even more. Let's see if that works. No, it doesn't like that. Export. But it seems to be working. I don't know. It's a function that I'm pulling out of there. What about before? Okay, so let's try back to this. That was working. Export. I should be able to say just export default. Can't I do that? Export default, give it an object, and then that'll just work. But you're probably right. You wouldn't do it that way. You'd probably just do it like this. Can I export it directly like that? No, you probably want to name it. So you probably say something like const take me to the promised land is equal to a function like that, and then do something like this. Export take me to the promised land. Am I doing that wrong? Talking of the error. What am I doing wrong there? Declaration. Who wants to tell Luke what silly thing he has done wrong right now? But if I say export default like this, I don't get an error. I thought that was how you did named exports. Is there something wrong with my code here? Is equal to a function like that. I'm not seeing anything wrong with this code. Oh no, it's fixed now. Okay, my linter was just spazzing out for a second. But once again, I'm getting this error. Take me to the promised land, not found. Let's jump back into this file. Export default. We've got an object with that sitting in there. All right, let's just try and name a normal export like this. And then it doesn't like it. Export take unexpected token. Okay, so it expected an open bracket. Is my brain just exploding here? Let's look up named exports. Named exports. Whoops, spelled that wrong. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so you do have to do it that way. You put it in an object. Wow. Dude, my brain must have just been blowing up in that moment. Then again, I don't use named exports a lot. I'm usually just saying export default. But there we go. That works. To be honest, I don't actually know the intricacies behind why that works. Push of undefined. Okay, so let's come back here. So it looks like this doesn't work when I do it this way. Let's try running the compile. Let's just say Quasar dev again. This is fun though. This is like a chance to sort of push the boundaries and find out how everything works, properly. Right. So that doesn't work. It seems to not like it when I say use router in this way. All right. So maybe I do have to use export default and have a function in order for this to work properly. I think I do. If it's not a function, it doesn't seem to be pointing to the right view router. In fact, let's have a little play here. Let's console.log router and see what we end up with. We get undefined. However, I bet you this is going to work. If I say export default, and then I give it an object like this. No, not an object, a function. If I say export default, and we have a function here like this, and then in this function, I say use router within the function, and then we say take me to the promised land, sits within there, and I'll do the console.log as well, just in case. And then we will return it like this. So it's just like using the composition API in its own component. So now, you can't do it this way though. You have to say, for example, use to do, because this is going to be a function. But what you can then do is basically say something like this. Const take me to the promised land is equal to use to do. And that may or may not help with tree shaking. I don't actually know. And now I reckon that is going to work. Refresh the page. It's doing nothing. Need to initialized on start. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Routers. Maybe I need to restart the server. Let's get rid of that, and that. So that's now using view router within there. Take me to the promised land. Whoops. And let's have a sneaky look at the... And then we expose it there. So how about on setup, we console.log it here like this. Need component, need to initialize on start. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Well, we already got it working, Emmanuel, if that's what you mean. My question, I'm just trying to like sort of stress test it and try it in different ways now. So view router is definitely being used properly. At least I'm pretty sure. Wait, am I not getting that console.log now? So I'm getting undefined. Oh, okay. Do you meant that I needed to put the function in there? Oh, I bet you that's what you meant. I wish there was no delay on this. Push of undefined. So let's go through this. Use to do is a function. and it returns take me to the promised land, which uses view router under the hood. So let's say here router. So we're something like that. Let's try that and see if that works. So router is getting undefined there. Router is equal to use router. We got this working before though. Why did it work before? All right, maybe it's the way I'm importing it. So let's try the old way of importing it. By basically saying used to do, but ... used to do like that. Comment that out. Let's refresh the page and see what happens. Okay, so that's working. So the weird thing is I don't seem to be able to pull it out of used to do like this. For some reason, that doesn't work. So it appears that might need to happen inside of the setup method. I'd be willing to bet that's going to work. So this doesn't work. Hang on. Yeah, that gives me an error. I bet you if I pull that out and put it inside of the setup method like this, I bet you that will work. And it does. Use router on setup, pass router to the function. But I don't want to pass the router to the function because the whole point is that I want to keep it as clean as possible. So what it seems though is that this method needs to be called within setup. It can't be called at the top of the file. Yeah, so there's two ways you could go about it. You could do it like this, and you could say within setup the things that you want to pull out. So let's imagine you've got a big list of things like that. You could then say, I want to pull that out. I want to pull this out. I want to pull something else out or whatever. So you could do something like that. Or the alternative is, if let's just say you wanted everything in there, you could do it like this. ... use to do, and then that's just going to pull everything out and it will just work. Yep, so that works. So the problem with this though, so I guess it depends on your use case. The problem with this, it's not very obvious what I now have available on my component. How am I supposed to know that this is called take me to the promised land? So maybe if it's a pattern you use over and over and over again, you could do it like this. If you need all of the functionality, so maybe you use this, for example, to access your API. And on there, you get methods like save, update, delete, or stuff like that. In my opinion, this way would be really good for something like that. Otherwise, you probably want to do it this way. Const, have all the stuff you want to pull out of it is equal to that. And then you could say, for example, like update, delete, create, and then you can just pull out all of the functions that you actually need. And you know, in this case, maybe instead of use today to do, you could call it like API methods. Yeah, and then you could pull out those API methods like this. In fact, let's like kind of mock that by doing something like this. And get rid of the view router part. And imagine that we're using Axios. So you could say, for example, import Axios from Axios. And then you could make an instance that's like, you know, namespace to your API or whatever. And then we could start doing stuff like this. We could say, for example, how about const create? And honestly, this would probably even be in its own file. So you could extract all of these into their own files. Is equal to a function, and that would take in like a form, for example, and then you would return Axios dot post, and then you would like send the form through like that, something like that. We might even test this. Let's see if it actually works. Create, and let's imagine we've got like an update one as well, and that would send through the form. We'd say Axios dot patch with the form. Oh, you need to put in the endpoint as well. So let's just say like, I don't know. You'd probably have to have like the endpoint as well. So for example, resource, I guess you'd call that, or entity, depending on the nomenclature you would like. It's a fancy word, nomenclature. Hey RJ, how you doing? Just doing some composition API stuff. Yeah, so then we could have like create, update. What was the other one? Of course, you'd have like delete as well, which is easier. Because actually this one needs the ID as well. Update. Maybe you'd say like, I don't know, this API. Honestly, I don't really like the look of this, but the point is just to give you an example, and then this could be just like delete. And you're gonna have to say, well, that's the resource, and then here is the ID, right? And then you'd say, I can't even remember how to do this, but you'd say like, you create a new instance of Axios. Yeah, Quasar version 3 is in beta, but honestly, it's so close to stable that it's virtually out of beta. It's incredibly stable, at least in my experience. Razvan's pretty much ironed out all the bugs. Yeah, so you could do something like that, and we call this like delete. Let's just use this as an example. You would expose all of those methods like nya. What have I done wrong? Delete. It doesn't like something here. Oh, I can't say delete. Bleh. The word's already taken. So there we go. Now we got like create, update, delete. And you can imagine if I actually did all of this properly though. And then we could go into index.view and we could pull all of them out like this. So we've got our API methods. Let's rename this just to be like super clear here. API methods. I can come down here. And then you could do it like this, update. This is now called remove, create. And then you could expose them like nya. And now I could very easily use any of these methods in my template. Or honestly, you probably wouldn't even use them in the template. You could have something here that then is like update to do. Man, there's just so many different ways you could go about this. Like, the point is, it's so easy to just pull in functionality and then just use it anywhere you like. And this gets even better as well, because let's just imagine you want to change a model when you're done with this. You could have something like this, dot then, taking the response, and I'm not actually going to do this, I'm just kind of mocking this out. And you could say like, let's just say we got a user model. You could say user dot, whoa, what happened there? User dot insert, if you're using something like ViewXORM, and then response dot data. In fact, I think the API is actually like this. You have to say like the data is equal to response dot data. Yeah, you could have something like that, and then you could like import your user from, I don't know what that would be. That might be something like models/user. And so like, hopefully you're starting to understand like how freaking amazing the composition API is. Honestly, like, I understand that some people like the simplicity of the options API, and I love it too, and I still use the options API. But this kind of flexibility is so insanely helpful, especially when you're building larger scaled applications. It is just so handy to be able to have functionality just sitting inside of a method like this. Another thing is references to variables as well. You can import ref from view, for example, and now we could say, for example, const reactive var is equal to ref, and then it could be like null by default. So this is a modern way of building Quasar app. You know what? It's totally up to you, NinjaLay. Lots and lots of people are not going to build it this way. And the thing is, everything I'm showing you is optional. Everything I'm showing you right now is, this is how you can build it if you would like to build it. But the point is, you can keep it simple and then extend the functionality if you like. Look, check this out. If you want, you can delete that file, and this is how you will start off using the composition API. If you're new to all this and it's all very complicated, let me give you like a quickly... Oh, sorry, my headphones are like hurting my ears right now. Hopefully you can all still hear me okay. I had to take my headphones off. They're hurting my ears. But let me give you a rundown of how you do options API-based stuff using the composition API. First of all, let's import a ref computed, and what else do we have? Let's just say ref and computed from view. But before I continue, once again, if you don't want to do it this way, you can simply say data. You can do all of the stuff in the old way if you would like to. You can have your computed there. You can have your props there like this. All of this is still available to you. In fact, you can mix and match this way of building an app with the composition API. However, you will eventually get pigeonholed, which is why the composition API exists. All right, so back to the example. Now what I can do, if I want to make a reactive property rather than using data, so data is the old way that you would do it. Now you can say, for example, count is equal to a reference to 0. Yeah, I agree. It's better than options API. But now you can say, for example, return count like this, and now count will be available within our component. So let's come up here and have here our count. Refresh the page. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, I'm not using computed. My linters are pretty strict. I like to have a pretty strict linter. What else? Reactive is assigned to a value but never used. Is it? I don't know. It looks like I'm using it. Count. Right there. Anyway, let's shut that and close it again. Well, I think that this approach is very useful when building large-scale applications because the code scales well with the complexity. I simply could not agree with you more. Especially working for a large-scale application that is extremely data-driven, like highly data-driven, like to the point where that's pretty much all we do. We create, at least early on for the lifetime of our app, we just have a ton of forms that are accepting data from the clients. Because I work for a farming consulting company, and this is what we do all day long. We create forms and intuitive ways for the farmers to enter data in a way that's simple. And the amount of repetition that we'll be able to get rid of because of the composition API, and it's not necessarily just repetition, it's also the fact that we can easily click through to things, like control click to methods is amazing. Yeah, so anyway, what was I getting at? Yeah, so you got a reference here now that's equal to 0. Now, if we want to have a function, all we do, rather than having like our methods property, so the old way we would do it is like this, and we would put our methods in there. This is the new way you do it. You literally just create a function, and you can literally just say function like this. I usually say const, and then the name of my function. So for example, increment is equal to, and then we can say, and by the way, stay to the end of this class because then I'm going to show you something freaking amazing. Const.value plus equals 1. So basically you can add 1 to the count. And you do have to say .value here. That's one kind of annoying thing, but there's reasons behind that related to reactivity. But yeah, now we can expose this increment function. Anything exposed here we can then use in our template. So if there were things that we didn't need sitting inside the setup, we simply wouldn't expose it. Hello, Dustin. Good to see you here. I'm pretty sure I've seen you around before. I definitely recognize your name. But yeah, now I can come up here and have a button. I really should just do like a clean video on the composition API. It's not that hard to teach, I'm starting to realize. And now we can say increment. So when we click on this button, we're basically calling this increment method here, which is this here, the increment. And there we go. Now we can increment it. And if you want to say, if you wanted this, for example, to be the current number multiplied by 2, you could then use a computed property. And once again, to use computed, you just pull it out of here like so. Computed. And now I can say const by 2, for example. That's probably a terrible name, but it doesn't really matter. And now we can do something like this. Return count times 2. And that's going to have to be count.value. And now let's expose that. And let's get rid of count and let's just use by 2. And now if we come up here and change count to by 2, what have I done wrong? Oh, whoops. This is meant to be a computed property. So const by 2 is equal to computed. So we need to wrap that function in computed. And there we go. Now it's 2. If I click it again, it will be 4. And then it'll be, what, 8? No, 6. Oh my gosh, nice math, Luke. But yeah, you get the idea. That's how you deal with the composition API. But here's something that really blew my mind recently. Evan Yu is working on an experimental way of doing this where you add the word setup here. I don't think it's currently available in Quasar. It's probably not. Anyway, I can show you it though. So check this out. This, honestly, stay to the end of this video if you just arrived, because what I'm about to show you absolutely blew my mind. And when I went on the State of View meetup, I don't know what you call it, like the live State of View live stream, Evan actually showed everybody this on that live stream. So check this out. If you go to SFC, and you can do this in your browser right now, jump into sfc.vue.js.org and check this out. Notice that in the script tag, we've got the word setup here. What this is doing is it's automatically, see how it says const message? It's automatically doing this behind the scenes. Actually, I can show you what it compiles to. Let's have a look at what it compiles to. All right, that's too difficult to understand. So basically what it's doing though is it's saying behind the scenes, export default, it's saying setup, and then it's saying const message is equal to hello world, exclamation mark, and then it is returning message like this, right? All of that code is being done in one line here. Now, I know what you might be thinking, like that sounds like it's doing too much magic, but I've played around with this and I've got to say, it is freaking amazing. Check this out. Let's do that other example I showed you before. Hopefully this is big enough for you to see. I'm sorry if it's not. Let's see if I can scale it a bit. Yeah, hopefully that won't mess with anything. But check this out. We probably want to have a button here. Oh, I'll do that in a second. So first of all, we want to have the variable. So let's import ref from view. And now we can say, for example, count, we'll have to say like const count is equal to a reference to 0 to begin with. And now I think that's all I have to do to get us going. Check it out. It is, I already have my reactive count variable available to me. And this is all the code I had to write. I am literally right up against the side of the editor here. There is no nesting. It's just like writing pure JavaScript. Freaking amazing. I love this. But check it out. Now we can do something like this. It's just plain, it feels like plain JavaScript. Honestly, like there is a little bit of magic, but it feels like plain JavaScript. Now I can say, for example, not function, let's say const increment is simply equal to a function that says count plus equals 1. I think I still needed to say dot value there. Anyway, let's test if I have to or not. Button, and for those of you that know the new version of Vue, we can simply add button in here. We don't need to nest all of this within a div. So we can have more than one root element. We can have more than one root element. So now I can say here, @click is equal to increment. And then we can give this a name like increment. Increment. Okay, so it looks like I do have to say count.value. And there we go. It works. How unbelievably cool is that? The only nesting I have here is in my increment function. And of course, it is the exact same with computed properties. I'm just going to do it for the sake of showing you. So let's say const by 2, I think we called it. And then you have to simply say computed. And then we can simply return here count times 2. And now I can say here by 2 instead. What's going on here? What have I done wrong? Oh, count.value. I always do this. I think they're starting to do linters though, which will automatically add dot value. Insanely cool. Multiple root elements sometimes can be tricky and do strange behavior. I haven't come across that yet, but thanks for letting me know because I have been worried that some weird stuff could happen. One thing that worried me about multiple root elements, if I'm honest, is what about when you extract components? Which one of them gets the attributes? Because now that we have really transparent components, if I have another file, in fact, maybe I can do it here. I'll just talk about it instead. Is the view compiler do the same stuff? This is currently an experimental feature, so probably not by default. But I imagine this is probably going to be released soon because it seems they seem to be ironing a lot of it out. This is one of those things you just got to go to GitHub and check the current state of it. But there you go. How insanely cool is that? If I can in the future write code like this and it's still performant, I don't know if he's only exposing stuff that's actually being used in here. I think what Evan might actually be doing is now ignoring count and not exposing count and only exposing by 2. I might even be able to check it out. Let's have a look. So count is equal to, where's the part where they expose it? Oh man, I gotta admit, this is a little bit confusing for me. No, I think this is starting to hit the limits of my knowledge. So we're importing ref and computed. So we definitely need to at least see by 2 being exposed and increment being exposed. So there's count. There's by 2. But there's... Yeah, right, I don't understand this. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, there you go. I think this is really cool and super exciting. I'm not using it in my own code yet. I'm a little bit scared too because it is experimental. But how unbelievably cool is that? And if you're just showing up to this, then check out sfc.vue.js.org. And by the way, if you like these streams, if you like seeing some of my cleaner videos that aren't all over the place, then definitely check out quasarcast.com/register. Register an account there. By the way, let me show you some of the tools I'm using behind the scenes for this. I love showing off some of the tools I use behind the scenes. I just need to make sure I don't accidentally share private data, but I'm pretty sure I won't. If I go to it's matomo.quasarcast.com. So you won't be able to go here because you have to log in with my account. But basically, this is my analytics for Quasarcast, and this sits on my server, and it's kind of like a Google Analytics that sits on my server. So now I can view all the people around the world that are currently sitting on my website. This is probably me. See, it's using Linux. So that's probably me on the website, and it would tell me live who's on the site. I obviously can't see their name and stuff like that, which I definitely shouldn't be able to. But yeah, then you can I can see where people came from. I get all of this analytics, and this is just something I installed on my website. I don't have to pay for any extra tools. And once I kind of run out of scale with this, then I'll probably move to something like Fathom Analytics. But for now, it's just a great little tool that gives me analytics for my website. And for small to medium, even to beyond medium-sized websites, this is totally all that you need. You just install it and put a snippet on your page, and it just works. If you get to massive scale, then you'd have to move to something like Fathom Analytics or something else. But man, this is wonderful. I think they even do hosting if you're interested in that kind of thing. But then the other one that I use, this is good for analytics, just in terms of visitors to my website and that kind of thing. But I also use something called Metabase. So if I go to metabase.quasarcast.com, this is what I use to start doing my analysis of the data within my website. So the database within my website, I can analyze that data using Metabase. So if I go to browse all items here and I go to growth, I created this dashboard, and this might look fancy, but I promise you this was actually ridiculously easy for me to build. And I'm nothing special. I'm not an analyst or anything like that. It was really easy for me to create queries. I didn't even have to write native SQL. I can write native SQL, but they have this awesome SQL builder, which I'll show you in a second. And I was able to build this really cool graph that shows me the growth of my site over time. And I can see it here by day. So I can see here on Tuesdays I tend to get a lot of signups, and on Fridays I tend to get a lot of signups. I can see by month. So March I only got 3. That's probably because that's when I launched it. And then on April, I got 55 people signed up for the site, and it looks like I'm not doing so well this month. So I probably need to do like a little bit more on the marketing side of things. And yeah, I can see how it's growing over time. So I can see it's pretty healthy in that it's like the website is gradually growing in new users every time, over time here, which is really cool and helpful analytics for me to look at. And I was able to build all this myself. And let me just give you an example of how I did it, so you see how ridiculously simple it is. I just went to ask a question. You can go simple for like really simple stuff. Native query is literally just writing your own SQL. By the way, this is free. I just installed this on my site for free using Docker. Like, it's a joke. It is literally a joke how much benefit I get from this for free. And we use it at work for more advanced queries and more advanced analysis on our data. But especially for small stuff, it's a no-brainer to install something like this on your site. So, custom question, and then I just went to Quasarcast. This is my database for Quasarcast. And then these are all of the tables. I won't go to users because I don't want to accidentally show private data. But we could say, for example, lessons. And then I could say, for example, let's join onto that. So maybe we could do like a left join. And what are we going to add on? The courses. And it's automatically picked up that the course ID is meant to be equal to the ID on the lesson, right? So where the course ID is equal to, actually, no, that's not right. Is that right? Oh yeah, the course ID on the lesson is equal to the ID on the course. And now I can click on this to like check the data is correct. How cool is that? And so you can do left joins, but then you can start analyzing your data. You can do something like this, visualize. And now I can say like, give me a visualization, and you can turn it into a bar chart. You can summarize your data and aggregate it however you like. And you can filter your data however you like. So you can say like where it was created at, and then between like a certain dates. It's just insanely cool. The benefit I get from Metabase for nothing. I can't believe I don't even pay for this. It's a joke. But then like if I ever want to scale, they've got you can pay for that and pay for like some extra tiny details, which I would never think to use anyway. What's this question? Can you make a Quasar SEO tutorial so that we can Google search our website and find our website in the very first page? I am currently not very cluey on SEO. However, if you want to learn some basics of SEO, then you want to look into quasar.dev and you want to look into view meta. Where is it? Yeah, so look at the meta plugin and how you would use that with Quasar. And then look at something like using meta tags for SEO, SPA, or something like that. I've never really looked into this myself. But yeah, start looking into optimize. Here we go, single page app for Google. Like this is kind of where you would start if you want to find out how to get good SEO for an SPA. As for SSR, oh goodness, that's like a whole can of worms in itself. Honestly, I'll probably have to leave that for. That's a conversation for another day because it's kind of complicated. But basically, with SSR, you can use something like this Meta plugin, and what SSR does is it renders your application on the server. So when Google crawls your website, it gets a version of your application that already has all of the meta tags in there. However, with an SPA, first, the client needs to open the application, then the meta tags will appear. Okay, so that's a very important distinguishment to make. With SSR, you get the meta tags and like all of the content in your site is served up straight away, okay, because it's pre-rendered. So when it says pre-rendered, it means like all of your div tags, all of the content in the body and all of that is already rendered on the website when the person hits the page. And that's why it's good for SEO, because crawlers can very easily see the website as if it was a plain website. With an SPA, what happens is you get JavaScript. In fact, I can show you this. This is an SPA. If if I go to index.view here, I might have to get rid of some of this stuff. Is that going to work? Yeah, it looks like it's working. Let's just say I have a H2 here, right? And I call this like my heading. Let's save that. And let's test if my theory is actually correct. So there we go. We've got my heading. If I go Control U to look at the source of this page, this is what the crawlers see. They don't see my heading. They have no way of knowing. I mean, that's not true. There are actually some more advanced things a Google bot is starting to do. But if you have an SPA, there is no way they can see it directly in the HTML. There is nothing here that says my heading. I'll even search for it. My space heading, right? Nothing comes up. However, let's change this and say Quasar dev mode is equal to SSR. And hopefully I'm right about this. Otherwise, I'm about to make a complete fool of myself. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. So we'll give that a second to load. We can get out of that now. You got to get into the habit of calling tabs. It's very important. Get out of that, and we might leave that open. Now check this out. This is an SSR version. If I go Control U, is it in there? Should be in there. My space. There it is. My heading. So from Google's point of view, let's just say I'm Google and I go to this website. I'm like, okay, what have we got here? Let's see if there's any H tags. Oh, here we go. We've got a H2 tag and it says my heading. Especially if that was a H1 tag, right? You probably have that as a H1 tag. Let's see if we can refresh this page. Yeah, so if I'm Google, I come over here and I go, oh, we've got a heading that says my heading. I might set that as the display for when somebody searches for this website. I'm going to set it to my heading. And so when you Google this website, it will come up with that and everything will look nice. The other thing is links. Now Google can see links within this page. So if I have, for example, an A link that sends you somewhere like / other location, let's refresh this page and now look for other - location. Google comes along and says, oh, we've got a link here called other location. I'm going to go on that link and have a look at that website, and then I'm going to start indexing that as well. None of this can happen if we don't have SSR mode. Once again, it can actually happen without SSR, but you have to do some extra work, and there's some weird like Googlebot stuff that I don't understand yet. Now, what View Meta does, the View Meta plugin, is it will add meta tags up here to your website. I might even be able to use it. So let's see if we can use this. Plugins Meta. Yeah, you know what? Stuff it. I'm just going to go down this rabbit hole here. Let's go into plugins. I haven't actually done this. I don't know if I've ever done this. I know about it, but haven't tried it personally, so I should probably actually try it before I divulge this information. Yeah, guys, let me know if you're interested in this kind of thing. If you're not, then like, I can talk about other stuff, but it seems that people are very curious about, well, let's point this microphone at my face so people can actually hear me. Yeah, it seems that people are very curious about like meta tags and proper SEO with Google. All right, so we've just refreshed the page. We're using Meta. Let's see how we actually use it. So we come in here and we say use Meta. Let's go to index.view. And we'll import that. And how do we actually use it now? I'm literally just going to swipe all of this. All of this code here. Is that in a setup method? Wait, what's going on? Where does that close out? Does it close out there? Whoa, whoops. So there's our meta tags, I think. Yeah, and then they close there. God, I'm running out of space here. And then what do? And then we basically want to use that meta. Oh no, it still goes on. Wow, so this is one massive meta tag. Oh gosh. So you probably want, if you're doing an SPA, you'd probably want this to be dynamic, I imagine. So there we go. I've just pasted in all of the meta, and then in the setup, you say use meta, and then we use all of that meta. So basically, this is just describing all of the meta tags we want at the top of our website. So now let's come through here. Here we go. Daston says he's interested in SSR stuff. I can't wrap my head around how it works with dynamic content and authentication. Yeah, because it's confusing. So let me try and explain that the best that I can. Keeping in mind, I haven't practiced explaining this before, so I've only got vague understandings, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. around explaining it myself. Okay, so check this out. This is interesting. Are we on SSR mode at the moment? Okay, so I'm going to jump out of SSR mode and go into an SPA mode, all right? So keep that in mind. We're in SPA mode now. And I'm using the Quasar meta plugin. And what it's doing is, first of all, we're creating just a meta variable here. Where is it? Here's our metadata. We're saying this is the title of the page. We probably don't need that. I'm gonna cut a lot of this to make it easier. In fact, let's get rid of all of that. I only want the meta tags. CSS tags. Don't want that. JS tags. Don't want that. I just want a really simple example for you all. This is, yeah. There we go. Okay, so there's the metadata. And then we come over here and we say use meta and we pass through the metadata. Okay. So now if I refresh this page and I go Control-Shift-I and to inspect the HTML, if everything worked, that metadata should now appear up here. So let's have a look at some of the data. We've got a description and the content is equal to page 1. So now if I look in here, there it is there. Description, the content is equal to page 1. All right. Now here's the important thing to know. If I say Control-U to look at the source code, it is not showing up in the source code of this website. What's happening is, once our single page application is loaded, the meta tags are injected into the HTML. So when it's first loaded, we do not see it. When it is loaded, we then see those meta tags, right? So if I come up here, yeah, we're not getting that description tag up here. But we are getting that description tag on our SPA. Now, I think when we're in SSR mode, we do actually get those meta tags. I could be wrong, though, so let's just load this and see what happens. So I'll get out of that because it'll open automatically. And what else can we close? Let's get rid of that as well. And then we'll give this a second to load. All right, so there we go. I've now got an app that's running in SSR mode and we're using view meta. So let's look at the source now. Is it showing up? Here we go. There it is there at the very top of our page. The meta tag, and you can see it's been normalized to sort of make this small as possible. But this is the key. So when you're using SSR mode and the meta plugin, the crawler can very easily see your meta content. Now, if you want that content to be dynamic, so let's just say we've got a blog post, for example, then what you might want to do then is make sure that you prefetch your data, and gosh, that's a whole nother topic, but you would want to make sure that you prefetch your data, you make sure that the meta tags have been set, right? And you've got use meta here, using data that prefetch. So let's just say for example, we have a blog title, and then we have a blog description. What you could then do is say, I want you, before rendering this application, fetch the data, and then set the right meta tags, right? So set the right meta tags. The description might say, for example, the title, this description might be the title of the blog or whatever. And then when it's served up, you will then have content that is specific to that blog post. And that means that your site is super crawlable because from the bot's point of view, from like Google Bots point of view, it can very easily see the meta tags and it can see everything within the body. Well, okay, I'm mixing SSR with SEO here, SEO there. Yeah, it's there are like SEO and SSR are definitely different things. But yeah, that's the reason though that SSR is good for SEO, because we figure out what meta tags we need to show first. And then when we know what meta tags we need to show, we serve up the content. However, with an SPA, it is the other way around. With an SPA application, we serve the application, then we put the meta tags in there, which is why when you say Control-U and open up this source panel, you don't actually see the meta tags. But if you look at it, when you say Control-Shift-I, they do show up when you're in SPA mode. All right, so that's a very important distinguishment to make between SPA and SSR applications. But there's a lot of other benefits. Oh, excuse me, I just burped to myself. There's a lot of other benefits and downfalls to to SSR applications. One of the big downfalls, and this is, to me, this is huge, and honestly, it's the biggest deal breaker for me, and it's the reason I don't use SSR right now. The biggest deal breaker for me is that you need to have your own server serving up the files. Now, why is that a big deal breaker? If you want a site that's global, if you want a site that runs just as fast anywhere on the planet, then you need to make sure that you can serve it up from anywhere on the planet. So when we use something like Netlify, basically it's got edge servers all over the planet that will serve up your SPA. And granted, you might have to do some stuff with servers, to make sure that you have a server that's like decentralized, and that's confusing as well on its own. But the point I'm making though is to serve up your application, it's pretty easy to have something that's highly available and very fast all over the world when you're building using something like Netlify or Versal with an SPA that is ridiculously simple. Yeah, Versal takes care of SSR. They kind of do. They do, but the point I'm making is it takes a little bit of extra effort. So with Netlify and Versal, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ninja, you then need to use cloud functions and do a little bit of extra work to get it up and running. And so for beginners, it's very difficult to convince to teach a beginner using SSR when in reality, they probably aren't going to see the benefits. It's probably going to be a lot easier for the majority of people to just do an SPA application. So SSR really is for people that they desperately need good SEO, and they want to me, I would use SSR for something like a forum, for a blog, and for something like a landing page as well. They're good candidates for SSR applications. I would never use SSR for my core app. I might get some slight performance benefits if I use it for my core app. But for my core application, the one that holds all the logic and doesn't need SEO, I'm always going to use an SPA for that kind of logic. So it might even make sense for a lot of you to use both. And here we go. Let me just blow your mind one step further here before I finish up. Whoops, clicked on the wrong link. Before I finish up, if I type in SSR here, check this out. This is insanely cool. What am I doing? Sorry, my brain's starting to disappear. I've been streaming for a while now. Yeah, so if we jump into the SSR section here, there's a part about PWAs, SSR with PWA. So what you can actually do is you can set PWA to true in your SSR application in your quasar.conf. Now, what this does is it means that the first time you hit your application, somebody hits your application, it will be served using server-side rendering. And that is insanely fast, right? So SSR is always going to be faster than an SPA. Pretty much, maybe there are some exceptions that I'm missing here. But usually, since the server is doing the rendering for you, an SSR is going to be faster. But what's even faster than SSR and an SPA is when you have the files cached on the user's computer. So when you've got your app set to PWA mode, that means that it's going to do some hardcore caching and even allow your application to be used when you're offline. So the cool thing about this is your application is served really fast the first time the user gets the application. Then, since it's a PWA, it does some hardcore caching so that when they view the website again, they don't even need to hit the server. They just get the server file. They just get the files that are cached on their computer. I think SSR can be used for providing link previews when you post a link in a chat application like Slack. It shows some information. I think that is super neat. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Is there a way around that, though? Is there a way you could do that with with an SPA? I don't know. With an SPA, like, I guess, oh no, you probably couldn't, like, because you'd have to rely on the client computer to do that. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, to me, this is the ultimate setup for speed. If you can have an SSR application so that it renders ridiculously fast the first time, and it's a PWA application so it does some hardcore caching on the front end, then you've probably got one of the fastest applications like you can possibly make. It doesn't apart from doing some tiny tweaks here and there, it doesn't really get much faster, at least in terms of our current knowledge of technology, than something like than doing something like that. So yeah, I love this kind of stuff. Then there's other stuff you can do. So for example, if you use the Q image component, whoops, for all of your images, it does some really intelligent things where basically it will only fetch, you can make it so it only fetches the image when you actually need it. So you can do really cool stuff like that. I don't know where it is, but there's somewhere in the docs that shows you how to do that. Also stuff like prefetching links. You can set up your site so that basically, and I think Quasar does this by default actually, when you first hit the site, it will start loading the pages, the other pages of your website, so that when they click on those pages, they're instant. So for example, if I click on one here, it's instant because that page has already been loaded for me. I think that's what they're doing behind the scenes. How do we turn Quasar app to PWA? It is literally as simple as this. Quasar build -m for mode, PWA. That's now building a PWA application. Now be very, 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 very careful developing with a PWA. When you develop with a PWA, since it does some hardcore caching, often you get some weird problems like where you update data, but then it doesn't reflect on the front end. In fact, what we do at work, and I know this is kind of bad, but this is what we do. We actually develop as an SPA. So when we run Quasar Dev, it goes into SPA mode. But when we build our application, we build it as a PWA. And we have never had any problems doing things that way. It's just, you can just run into problems if you're developing in a PWA mode. But I don't know, like at some point I'm probably going to have to do that down the line when I start using service workers. But I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. So yeah, I'm probably going to finish up now. Thanks everyone for listening. This will definitely have to turn into its own video because the title is Quasar Composition API Programmatic Routes, and we totally went on a whole bunch of tangents. So, but thanks heaps for sticking all the way through. Hope you enjoyed watching this stream as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And yeah, once again, of course, I need to do a plug, marketing and all that kind of stuff. Quasarcast.com/register. This really is my best work. I'm proud of what I do on this website. This is basically just a whole bunch of videos for learning Quasar. So if you're new to the Quasar world, or if you've been in the Quasar world for a while and you want to start looking at some more advanced stuff, then there's probably something there for you at quasarcast.com. And there is a lot to see in the future. I'm working a lot on this. Like, this is basically what I do with my spare time. And in a few years' time, eventually I would like it to be my full-time job, working on quasarcast.com. That's kind of my ultimate goal. So yeah, check out quasarcast.com. This is going to be a very actively developed site. We currently have this Quasar Getting Started guide, which is like one video at the moment, but I'm currently working on a full Quasar Getting Started guide where we're going to build a to-do application. In fact, since you guys stuck with me all the way through to the end, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek to that. So if I go to CD Quasar, I think it's called like Getting Started guide. There we go. I'll just run Quasar Dev on that. Check this out. This is the application that we're going to use in my new Getting Started guide that I'm working on. And by the way, with this app I'm building, you don't even need to worry about the API because I've literally built out a publicly available API for you. And this means that you can experiment with a to-do app API without even having to actually build out the API yourself or bring in any packages that might break. So rather than having to bring in your own Express server or Laravel server or whatever, I've literally just made it available for you. In fact, you can test it right now. If you go to to-do-api.quasarcast.com, this is a fully featured REST API that uses cookies to identify who you are. So you don't even need to authenticate or anything like that. It will identify you with a cookie, and then I basically purge the data every week or so. to make sure that it doesn't get overloaded with too much data. So you can use this API as much as you like for free, and it's going to be part of my getting started guide. And so if we jump in here, this is it. We've got like a list of different to-dos, and then I can add something in here like on my shopping list, like tomatoes. And this is using that free API I was talking about. So when you build this application, you'll be able to use that free API to get a fully featured application like this for building a to-do app. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on. I'm also going to show you some advanced layout designs in this series. So for example, what is it? I think I called it landing page responsive. Yeah. So we work on like just a basic landing page as well, and how you might build that using Quasar. So yeah, thank you everybody for sticking through to the end. I really enjoy making these videos for you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next stream. Bye for now.